Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're well. Another fragrance elixir is upon us, and this is probably going to be the biggest one of the year, unless Bleu de Chanel drops an elixir or something like that and steals all the thunder.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
I'm talking, of course, about Giorgio Armani's Acqua di Gio Elixir. A fragrance nearly 30 years in the making, considering the original Acqua di Gio Eau de Toilette came out in 1996, and they've been working on this one ever since. That's a lie, that's not true at all. I mean, the 96 part is, the other part, no. So you and I both know that right now fragrance elixirs are all the rage, or elixir flankers. Every single fragrance line out there at this point seems to already have an elixir, or have one in the works, or both of those things, already have one and also have another one in the works. So of course it was only a matter of time before Giorgio Armani came out with Acqua di Gio Elixir here, since they already have the Eau de Toilette, Eau de Parfum, and Parfum, and that just seems to be the way it goes. And there's already a lot of talk going on about this one. Some people saying absolutely amazing, fantastic. Other people saying cash grab, piece of crap, total trash.
It's trash.
And I will let you guys know through today's video where I stand on this one, how it smells to me, what I think about it. Now, I ordered mine from Europe, and the price I paid was actually not bad at all. $105 roughly for a 50 ml size bottle. As of right this minute when I'm shooting this video, it's not available in the US at full retail yet, so I'm not actually completely sure what it's going to cost. I saw some people saying that it's $200 Canadian, but after conversion, that's like $140 US, which really wouldn't be that crazy when you compare it to, you know, Y Elixir or Sauvage Elixir, which for a 60 ml size bottle are pushing $200 US. Now, unfortunately, it is sold out at the store where I purchased it, which is makeupstore.com. I know the name of that is just very odd. Makeup store, like that doesn't seem like a place you would go shop for fragrances, and yet they oftentimes get new releases in before we do here in the US, and they ship to the US. But I will say the website is not great. It's kind of hard to navigate and find things on. I'll try to have this one linked in the description, but like I said, it may be sold out already, but it should be coming out in the US regardless very soon at retailers. Let's go ahead and kick things off by taking a look at the presentation, then we can start digging in a little bit more on Acqua di Gio Elixir. First up, the box, which frankly feels pretty flimsy and cheap. I know it's not really a big deal at the end of the day, but like the flap here just feels cheap. There's no other way to put it, but it is just the box, so I guess it doesn't matter that much. Anyway, front of the box, you have the name of the house, name of the fragrance, and your size, 50 mils, little Giorgio Armani logo up top. You have a QR code on one side of the box. On the back, you have your ingredient information and also your concentration, Parfum. Then on the bottom, you have your badge code. My badge code is 38Y901S. And here we have a look at the bottle. You have on the front, name of the house, name of the fragrance, and the flanker name. I like the look. It has that paint on the inside of the bottle, which gives it a really classy, high-end look. On the bottom, you have a sticker with your badge code. You have the little Giorgio Armani logo on top of the cap. The cap is magnetic. 2 thumbs up for that. Also have the little Giorgio Armani logo on top of the atomizer. And here's a side-by-side look at the elixir bottle compared to Acqua di Gio Parfum. That is a 100 ml size. You know what time it is? Let's go ahead and do a couple sprays. Here we go. Atomizer is okay, nothing amazing. Before we start digging into this one, here are some codes to save yourself some money across a bunch of different fragrance websites. So if this one were to pop up at, for example, JOMASHOP, you could use those codes only within the JOMASHOP app to save yourself some money on your order. All the other codes, like Fragflex, the perfume box, and Max Aroma, work whether it's in the app, on the website, wherever. Acqua di Gio, Acqua di Gio. So if you're unaware, this has been a favorite line of mine forever, basically. The original Acqua di Gio Eau de Toilette was what I would consider my signature scent for years. And Acqua di Gio Profundo, not the Parfum, is one of my favorite fragrances right now as far as spring, summer, and early fall. It's a fragrance line that I have loved, that I have worn, that I've gotten great reactions from. I tell you that to let you know I'm a big fan of Acqua di Gio, except for Profundo Parfum. And right now, with how many different elixirs are coming out, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, there is starting to be a bit of a backlash toward elixirs in general, where you start to see a bunch of people pile on the second a new elixir is announced. Like, it's getting to that point. So a lot of these elixir fragrances, at least in the fragrance community, are kind of like starting out behind the 8 ball, right? They're being announced, they're being released, and a lot of people are like, I don't want another elixir. I don't care. It's a gimmick. It's a cash grab. It sucks. That's how a lot of people are approaching it. And this is catching some of those strays right off the bat too. Question is, does it deserve it? So how does it smell? Well, when you first spray it on, it's really, really fresh. It's bright. You have a really appealing citrus combination. Mandarin orange and bergamot works together perfectly. It's zingy, fresh, a little bit green, slightly sweet, but not so much so that it goes over towards smelling overly synthetic or super sugary or anything like that. It's also got this great, somewhat minerally aquatic vibe to it. Very much smells like an Acqua di Gio when you first spray it on. My wife actually remarked that it smelled to her a little bit like Acqua di Gio with kind of a throwback classiness to it. She specifically said, like, if you took Acqua di Gio, made it a little bit barbershoppy, and made it a little more grown up. And it does kind of come across like that in the initial opening. It comes across as the most buttoned up of the Acqua di Gios, potentially the most elegant of the Acqua di Gios, definitely the most high end, the highest quality compared to the other Acqua di Gio fragrances that you can currently buy on the market today. As it starts to dry down, things do shift up, and fairly quickly, actually. That citrus, it starts to step back pretty early on, and you get more violet that comes out. So that violet kind of melds together with the green aspects from the opening, but it does have a certain nuance to it that, if you're familiar with fragrances from the past, is gonna smell a little familiar to you. More specifically, it's violet that starts to meld together with leather, which is one of the base notes here. Yeah, it starts to smell a little reminiscent to Dior's Fahrenheit. Now, it doesn't smell full on like Fahrenheit. I'm not saying that. But what it does smell like is that they took inspiration from maybe something like Aqua Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit Cologne. And they said, what if we took, you know, that aspect, that kind of fresher violet leather combination, and mixed that together with Acqua di Gio, but we made it also a little bit more grown up, but still fresh. But yeah, just kind of blend those ideas together, you know, swirl that around in your mouth a little bit, see how that tastes. It feels kind of like that's what happened here. Almost like with Sauvage Elixir, right? Dior Sauvage Elixir smells a little bit like they took inspiration from things from the past, you know, maybe a little bit Drakkar Noir, a little bit this, a little bit that, but they put their own twist on it, changed it up, and made it something new. This is the same kind of thing going on, except instead of something like Drakkar Noir or something in that style, you know, vaguely in that style, it's Fahrenheit. And it's mainly through the mid that you're gonna pick that up. It is nicely sweet. Again, not overly sweet, but you do have a little bit of sweetness there. But the violet really comes through strongly there in the mid. As you hit the dry down, that violet dissipates, goes away, and then it's more of this like minerally fresh leather with additional woody notes, a bit of a clean, earthy patchouli. I know that sounds weird, clean and earthy, but what I mean by that is it has that little, you know, earthy hint from patchouli, but done in a very clean way. So it's not actually coming across like heavy and dirty or anything like that. It just adds like this little bit of heft to it as it hits the full dry down. So it clearly goes through different stages and changes. The opening doesn't really smell the same way as the mid, which doesn't really smell the same way as the dry down. And I know that's not really late breaking news, but sometimes you do get fragrances that, you know, smell pretty consistent the whole way through. This one has clear stages, and as you head from one to the other, you can tell like, oh, okay, that's going away, being replaced by this. And at one point during the fragrance's lifespan, it does have that Fahrenheit mixed with Acqua di Gio feel. That said, in the opening, doesn't smell that way, and the dry down doesn't smell that way, but you're definitely gonna pick up that inspiration as you wear the fragrance. So all of that out of the way, that's kind of how it smells off my skin. What about performance? Because when it comes to elixir fragrances, the performance needs to be somewhere around here for most people, because if you have performance down here or somewhere like here, people are not going to be very happy about that, because generally with the name elixir, the thought process is it's got to be strong. And by and large, most elixir fragrances are really strong. So, you know, they've kind of reinforced that by the way of what they're putting out, right? And by they, I mean every single fragrance brand that's putting out Elixir fragrances right now, which that's pretty much everybody. So keep in mind, this is Acqua di Gio, which at the end of the day, pretty much all their fragrances are made for spring, summer, and early fall. It's actually really good off my skin. Projection-wise, strong, especially initially. Is it as strong as Sauvage Elixir? No, it isn't, but it's not the same type of fragrance. Is it stronger than Acqua di Gio Profondo? Yes. Is it stronger than Acqua di Gio Parfum? Yes. Again, going back to the first time I sprayed this on and my wife commented on it, she wasn't even in the same room. I hit a couple sprays and she was like, what is that? It smells great. So it's got that kind of initial projection. When you first spray it on, heavy. Now, obviously, as it starts to dry, it's gonna get a little closer to your skin. But as far as the Acqua di Gio fragrances, this one is gonna be the strongest of the bunch, which at the end of the day, kind of what you expect. Now, don't expect it to outperform some crazy heavy wintertime fragrance or late fall fragrance, you know, something really rich, deep, heavy, because that's not what this is. But if you're judging it against the fragrances it's gonna go up against, it's good, really good. So yeah, after saying all that, you pretty much already know, but seasonality wise, you're looking at spring, summer, and early fall. But like Acqua di Gio Parfum, I think if you really like this, you can wear this late fall or winter, either one, daytime or nighttime. I'd say it's definitely the most mature of the Acqua di Gio fragrances. I think far and away, actually, compared to Parfum, Profondo, the Eau de Toilette, the Eau de Parfum, this one is gonna be the one that has like the most grown-up aspect to it. So be aware of that. If you're much younger and you're looking for one that has more sweetness to it, probably Profondo Eau de Parfum is gonna be better for you. Maybe the Eau de Toilette, maybe the Parfum. But if you don't want quite as much of the sweetness and you don't mind that kind of throwback feel that it has at parts in the fragrance, you're gonna really enjoy it. I wish I knew what the full retail price was gonna be as of when I'm shooting, because that would really help as far as like how good or bad that pricing is. Because for me, I paid $105. I'm fine with that. Yes, it's a 50 mil, so you're not getting as much, but you do get a little better performance. No, I'm not pumped about having the smaller bottles that they charge more for. I'm not a huge fan of that. So if it's at full retail, 140 bucks US, that's not crazy. That's cheaper than, like I said, Y Elixir. That's cheaper than Sauvage Elixir. That's cheaper than most elixirs. Now, if it's creeping up toward 200 for a 50 mil, yeah, that's not very good. And at that price point, yeah, it starts to be one of those deals where you go, yeah, I mean, higher quality, but that much higher? I don't know. So for me, standing here today, the price point that I paid for the fragrance and what I got from it, I'm a fan. It reminds me of Acqua di Gio, but at the same time, classes things up a bit, does have a throwback to an old school fragrance, but it's one that I like, and it's blended really well from opening into mid into dry down. It goes smoothly and it's a little interesting. You can pick up changes as they happen. So it's got a nice touch of complexity to it, at least as much as an Acqua di Gio fragrance blended with bits of Fahrenheit can be. I think the biggest issue this one is gonna have for some people is that violet leather inclusion that does call back to Fahrenheit a bit, because it does create the situation where you're like, this is supposed to be Acqua di Gio, why are you putting in something that smells like this classic fragrance that everybody knows? It's a little weird. And I don't disagree with that, but I do like how it smells. So I'm kind of like torn there. On the one hand, you wish they maybe pushed the Acqua di Gio DNA further without incorporating this kind of weird fusion. But then the weird fusion that they did ends up smelling pretty good. Although I gotta say, I would not have minded if they would have just really like ramped up like a darker Acqua di Gio instead of leaning into the violet leather kind of thing that they did, maybe going more with like a very rich woodiness, maybe a touch more of that incense, add some labdanum, some amber aspects, and go with like a deep, rich kind of citrusy aquatic that changes into those notes as it dries down. Maybe I would have been more for that, or even throwing in some tobacco or something like that, really switch stuff up. But that's me just playing armchair quarterback, so ultimately that doesn't matter at all, I guess. So there we go, guys. Acqua di Gio Elixir. As a fan of Acqua di Gio, I really enjoy it. I'm gonna give it some steady wears. For the price I paid, a great deal, 200 bucks. I would definitely not rush out to grab it at that price point if that's what it ends up being, but if it's more like 140, something like that, I think that's totally fair. There we go, guys. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Again, that is linked below. If I can find it in stock somewhere, I'll have that link also. Stay safe out there, guys. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.